Alabama is a massive brand in college football. They have incredible tradition, and they will always have the potential to be elite. But after seeing what is happening to them on the field and in the transfer portal, adding on that Nick Saban's not there anymore, it does seem that they are at an inflection point. Are they sitting at a fork in the road, deciding which way to go? On one side, you can keep the train rolling and stay national relevant by winning, obviously on the field. Down the other path leads you to coming back to the pack of the rest of the big dogs and just being another great place to play, but not the place to play. Now, DeBoer needs more time. He's going to bring in players that'll fit his system, and the jury's still out. But 2025 is shaping up to be a bridge to what Alabama is going to be next. I remember growing up, everybody wanted to go to Destin for spring break. It was the place to be. But about halfway through my college experience, it kind of seemed to fall off, and it turned into just another good spot amongst many. Alabama can't turn into Destin without there being massive repercussions to the current regime in Tuscaloosa, which means Kalen DeBoer. They're still recruiting really well. The roof isn't caving in. They're going to have another top-notch roster next year. But if the brand doesn't start recapturing that elite on-the-field success, Alabama could find themselves a lot like Destin. Just another fun place to go, but not the mecca of the college football elite party. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane. David, like I said, the jury is still out on Alabama. It's an incredible place. You look at the way they're recruiting. Alabama fans aren't going to stop going to the games. They're not going to stop funneling money into that program. But at what point and how many years of not making the playoff, and I know they didn't win a national championship the last 3 years under Nick Saban, but how many years can this go on before they start just coming back to the pack, or are they already coming back to the pack?
Okay, so every day I've gotten on my phone for the past week, I've seen some top player from all the schools and all the programs in the country is entering the transfer portal. The reason it catches our attention when we see that it's Alabama is a few reasons. One, it's always accompanied with former five-star player, right? That gets our attention because not every program has a bunch of five stars on their roster. Alabama signs a bunch of five-star players, so a lot of the guys who transfer out and enter the transfer portal, they're going to be former very high recruits, right? The second reason is because we didn't see this under Nick Saban, but I think we would have, right? Like, this is the way college football is going, and I think this is one of the reasons, I mean, Nick Saban didn't tell me this personally, but I think this is one of the reasons that Nick Saban did retire, because of this aspect of the game, like, he got tired of seeing. And so maybe there is an element that, you know, Alabama is going to falter, and players, maybe some of these players wanted to commit and play for Nick Saban, and he's no longer there, and so they're leaving, and Kalen DeBoer doesn't have a handle on what's going on. But I think more of it is just this is the current state of college football, and Alabama's going to have to deal with that as well. And then the final point of this is for every player that you see entering the transfer portal from Alabama, they're going to be signing some kid who's entering the transfer portal from another school, and we're going to have to do what we do with all of these programs at the end of the day, or at the end of the closing of the transfer portal window, is determine who got better and who got worse, because we have to evaluate the roster in totality.
And I agree with everything you said. I want to make sure that I'm nuanced in what I'm saying here. The transfer portal is going to affect everybody. It does affect everybody. You have some guys in the past, remember the getting processed? It used to be you just got cut. Like, Nick Saban would cut guys. There were people at other, especially when he took over the job and he was trimming the fat. But now you can hop into the portal. So sometimes, again, players are going to go in the portal. That's not necessarily a bad thing for the program that they're leaving, right? It's just an avenue for them to get out outside of being cut or something happened off the field, whatever. It's not just, when I look at Alabama, that players are entering the portal. It's who is entering the portal and the importance of some of these guys. And to the point of Nick Saban would have guys leave. Yes, we saw guys leave in the transfer portal, even when Nick Saban was there. But it's the stability factor with Alabama. Alabama has been one of the most consistent big dogs in college football when it comes to recruiting, on-field success, and just that stability of, you know, you're going to get a really good product 99% of the time. Is that now faltering? Blaine, I'll kick this over to you. Is that now faltering because without Saban, Alabama isn't in that air or have that aura that they used to, and they're just going to have to go through the churning like everybody else. You're just another one of the top dogs. That's my point.
I just think this, I somewhat agree with David. I think this would have happened the same way under Nick Saban. The days of dynasties are over. You're not going to have Trent Richardson as your third-string running back anymore. You're not going to be able to stack a certain amount of depth with a certain amount of talent because guys will get paid to go other places. And I think this is the reason Nick Saban retired. This is why Nick Saban got out of the game. And the real question is even with the guys that Alabama's losing, they will replace, but there's certain guys you can't replace, no matter how hard you try. And we can talk about the guys who have already gotten the transfer portal, but the big smoke, and when there's smoke, there's fire, is around Ryan Williams right now at Alabama. His best friend, supposedly the cornerback that just got into the portal, and now they're talking.
Or no, Mbakwe.
Yeah, Mbakwe. The different guy went to Notre Dame, Devontae Smith, but that's the one you can't replace. That's the one that'll hurt Bama and Kalen DeBoer. If they lose Ryan Williams, now it's a whole nother level of shadow that gets cast over that team and that program.
Well, I've been mentioning this since about halfway through the season because I had somebody tell me that there's interest, and again, this is alleged, but it's somebody that I trust, that there's interest in Oregon for Ryan Williams. And this is something that I told you guys about a long time ago before a live stream that I had been told. And, at the time, you're like, it's wacky. This would never happen. And to your point, guys, I'm not arguing that Alabama's not going to be affected by the transfer portal. But you brought up the point, Blaine, of, well, guys are going to follow the money. If Nick Saban, Alabama's got money. Let's first off say that they don't have Oregon money or Michigan money, but they've got money. I think the difference is with a guy like Mbakwe, maybe somebody did offer him more money, but is that $150,000 to $200,000, $300,000 worth leaving Nick Saban, who could literally stamp you into the NFL like he had done with so many other guys? I think there would be the benefit of the doubt more with Alabama still if Nick Saban was there, and players, especially the primetime players, would be less likely to transfer because Nick Saban is such a big brand himself. He calls up a couple NFL GMs. Look how many guys he's put in the league that are balling. Just turn on the TV on Sunday. They're still all there. He calls one GM and says, hey, I'm telling you, this kid's the next up. He's a great kid, this, that, and the other. That's worth its weight in gold. So not saying Alabama wouldn't have lost anybody under Nick Saban, but it's who they're losing, and it is, do they have the benefit of the doubt not now that Nick Saban is not there, or is it looked at like Alabama, great place, but man, look at all these other great places. Kalen DeBoer isn't better, doesn't look better than Kirby Smart. Kalen DeBoer right now, you can make an argument. I'd take Steve Sarkisian over Kalen DeBoer right now if we're going to talk about brand and people that really move the needle with some of these kids. And I'm not trying to say Kalen can't do it at Bama, but 2025, if they win 9 games, don't make the college football playoff, that's what I'm saying. At what point does Bama being so good for so long and Nick Saban being the greatest college football coach of all time and Bama this and Bama that and Bama this and Bama that, eventually when does that fall back to the pack and they're just looked at like one of the many big names in the crowd?
I wonder what kind of factor offensive tackle Caden Proctor is playing in the locker room right now. Remember last offseason, he enters the transfer portal, commits to Iowa, shows up at Iowa, enters the transfer portal from there, comes back to Alabama, says, man, it wasn't worth it. I wish I had done that. I wonder if he is a voice for guys in the locker room saying, hey, be careful what you wish for and be careful with this mindset of the grass is greener somewhere else.
Yeah, no, look, there's so many different circumstantial situations that happen throughout the roster fluctuation, but all of that affects the culture of that locker room. Like, we can sit here and say, well, we talked about the Penn State kid getting in the portal yesterday. He had to because of the timing. That's a circumstance. Everybody understands that. The locker room guys look around and they're like, I get that. I understand why you had to do that. But when you have a situation like Proctor, where somebody decides, hey, this isn't what I want, I'm going to go somewhere I think's better, then they say, oh, wait, like you said, the grass isn't greener, I'm coming back. Does that mean it's just an open door policy? If you're a good player, you can just leave and come back or whatever. I'm telling you right now, I don't think Nick Saban would have taken him back. I don't think Nick Saban would have taken him back in a heartbeat. At all. I believe that. And again, I don't know Saban personally. And I do want to say this before we get to the chat. This is not a you hate Alabama or you love Alabama, or you're an Auburn fan and you're an LSU fan and you hate Alabama. This is not Bama is burning. That's Moscona's thing. I'm going to let him do that. We keep it straight up here. We call it how we see it. If it's good for our team, if it's bad for our team, if it's bad for the team we hate or good for the team we hate, that's why I want just, as many logical responses as we can get, because it's a good debate and discussion, and it's a compliment to Alabama because of what they've done in the past. And the standard is still the same, I think, in the eyes of Alabama fans. That's a whole nother argument when it comes down to that on-the-field success as well. So that's why I bring it up.
How much do you think Alabama not making the playoff has affected towards this?
Well, I think what it does is it gives ammunition for negative recruiting against them. It gives ammunition for what I just opened the show with. That, hey, not that Alabama's made the playoff every single year. They've made it most years. But a 12 team, a changing of the guard from your legendary head coach to this new guy where there is a lot of questions. And like I've said, Alabama fans don't care how many games Kalen DeBoer won at Sioux Falls. They don't care how many games he won at Washington. They don't care if he beat Oregon at Washington. It is what have you done for the Alabama fans? And so far, you have shown up. You didn't make the playoff. You didn't win the SEC championship. You beat LSU and you beat Auburn, which is looked at very highly in the eyes of Alabama fans. And you beat Georgia as well, but you didn't. You're not getting a ring this year, other than a bowl ring in the Midas Touch My Car
Okay,
Brakes
it's the
Bowl?
Reliquest Bowl.
Excuse me,
okay,
the
against
Reliquest
Michigan.
Bowl.
I will have no
My fault.
disrespect for the
Yeah, you're
Reliquest
going on a
Bowl.
quest to rely.
Is your question, though, if they were still in contention for a ring, would some of these players not have entered the portal?
Yes.
Is that what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know every circumstance,
Yeah,
but
I
I
don't
would
either.
think probably not. Some more would have stayed to play in there. I would assume that. But again, we can talk about the transfer portal and whether you like it or whether you don't like it. We talked about the lack of structure and the screwed up timing of the calendar. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Alabama has been the Walmart of college football. They have been the General Electric of college football, and they were operated by the most powerful man in college football. I'm telling you right now, if Nick Saban was the head coach, Alabama would have gotten the playoff over SMU. I'll believe that to my dying day. But when you mix that with the lack of having that big dog at a place like Alabama, does it bring them back to the pack? Not that they're in the middle class. They're still rich as hell. They're still driving a Tesla around. They maybe even have a couple robots walking around the house. But they're not the richest. They're not the Bezos of the neighborhood anymore. So to me, that's the question I'm asking. I think it's a legitimate question. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Do us a favor if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like the videos. Turn on that notification bell too, because it's getting crazy here with the college football playoff about to kick off.